From Avatar to the tar sands, James Cameron joins the First Nations of Canada in calling for an end to the predatory insanity of an ecological, human rights, and industrial disaster in the making. Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, September 29th, 2010.
So please join me in welcoming the National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations.
Thank you so much. I want to join in the acknowledgement of our elder, Atleo, for the prayer. And thanks everyone for coming out today. This is what I believe a very historic moment that has arrived. One that, as a fan of brilliance in art and movies, this is really a moment of art imitating life. Indigenous peoples around the world were gripped by a story that came from Mr. Cameron and the artists that he's worked with to help reflect back to us a reality that is not fiction but is being played out in our lives every single day, not just here in this country but Indigenous peoples around the world. And so I certainly am honored to have been asked by the leadership and appreciate Mr. Cameron's deference and respect being shown to the Indigenous peoples. This is what was envisioned in the original treaties. The territories we're talking about, Treaties 6, 7, and 8. It was always a vision of mutual respect, mutual recognition, and that we would share in the prosperity of the land, and that we would see one another. And that's what it is that the leaders have saying has not occurred. Not only in relation to issues such as resource developments, but in most aspects of our lives. We know that the chiefs have been calling for a long time to be respected, to have a full seat at the table. Not only as is described in the treaties, but as is upholded by Section 35 of the Canadian Constitution, where Aboriginal title and rights and treaty rights are enshrined. Most recently, after a 40-year battle, Indigenous peoples around the world have had the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, passed by 144 countries initially around the world. Canada, one of 4 who did not sign on. This is an opportunity, and this is the moment in history. And this is the issue where Canada can step forward and demonstrate true global leadership when it comes to the application of human rights, and do it right here in our own backyard. And so I join with the chiefs in expressing support as National Chief. There's over 600 First Nations across this country, over 50 Indigenous language groups. Many of those languages are endangered as we speak. We've had over 40 court cases across this country upholding the recognition of our title and rights. What's required now is for governments to sit down with the First Nations governments on a nation-to-nation basis. And so, to Mr. Cameron, we want to thank you for joining in this effort. Coming from Ontario, we remind him he is upholding that notion of we are all treaty people. Those treaties weren't just signed with the First Nations, with the Indigenous peoples of these lands. They were signed onto with all Canadians. And so it is, we encourage Canadians to join with us, to walk with us, to recognize the First Nations' plight as Mr. Cameron is doing, not only for this country, but indeed for the world. And for that, we are very grateful, Mr. Cameron, for your presence, for your support, and for building this very strong relationship that is entrenched in the notion of those treaties. And so I join in the strong support for what we're hearing from the leadership here today, and that this effort will continue, and the Assembly of First Nations stands with you. Thank you.
Thank you.